What is this machine found in the basement of a cabin on a campsite my family owns? It's been there for decades, and not even the old owners know what it was. It's about 11 inches wide and maybe 1.5 to 2 feet long. It has a handle crank, but everything is seized. The place was built in the 1920s, if that helps anyone. Please help. It has been a mystery for us for years now. It's a 1920s printer called the Elliot addressing machine, used to address cards, letters, or mail of any kind. The mail is inserted into the machine, and on the other chute of the machine goes a stack of small mimeograph stencils. Then, with the turn of the hand crank, the name and address on each stencil are printed on a piece of mail. The stencil is clean and returned to its stack, ready for use at a future time. It was manufactured by the Elliot Addressing Machine Company in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they sold for $35 at that time. What is this thing I found in my grandparents' house? The main piece has some kind of clip on the back and is connected to an unusual chain with toggle clips on both ends. It is stamped at the back, the Pettibone Brothers Manufacturing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. It looks like a watch chain that attaches to your belt or just hooks into the top of your jeans. Any idea what this is? Thank you. It's a Knights Templar themed sword hanger from the 19th century, likely meant to display a Masonic ceremonial sword. James and William Pettibone operated the Pettibone Brothers Manufacturing Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, sometime after the Civil War in the US. The brothers produced military and band uniforms, as well as uniforms for letter carriers and a variety of regalia items. Does anybody have any idea what this could be? A friend found it at an antique shop in Delavan, Wisconsin. I guess it's a hat rack. The feet should be mounted against the wall, then a cowboy hat would sit atop the figure's head. What do you think? It's a bookend, made in the Philippines in the 1960s. The feet are supposed to go up against the books. The set is a man and a woman in tribal clothing, with their feet taller than they are when sitting. What is this metal object found on the beach? I found this in the Pacific coastline on the Olympic Peninsula. It's pretty rusted, and I don't know how big it is because I didn't touch it. It's probably been sitting there for a while. I'm just wondering if anyone has a clue. It's an antique marine engine, something similar to this, from a 1914 catalog. I've worked on one almost exactly like it before. I'm a marine mechanic for a living. It's just super rare that I couldn't find a stock photo due to age. It's actually a pretty valuable antique motor. I'd like to have it just to put in my man cave. What is this, some kind of nautical instrument I found at an antique auction? Probably related to a ship's magnetic compass, but it only shows 10 degrees of swing. I found it under an auction site search for compass, and the seller specifically carries nautical antiques. I've worked on ships for a while and have never seen anything like this. It comes with a wooden storage box and a picture with a human hand for rough scale. The auction is located in Connecticut, if that helps. Thanks. It's a World War II direct reading reflector magnetic compass, manufactured by Tokyo Aero Indicator Company and used on Japanese Navy aircraft. The compass had a reflector assembly with a mirror to allow horizontal viewing, as this compass was mounted with the glass facing up. The markings within the compass are reversed, so they are read correctly when reflected in the mirror. The frame is shock mounted to absorb bumpy flight conditions. What is this large and rusty metal assembly I found next to train tracks while doing some yard cleanup? The long shaft at the top moves up and down on a hinge. It's pretty heavy. I could only drag it a few feet with a respectable amount of effort from a 6'4", 250-pound, fairly muscular body. The rod coming off of what is almost definitely the base pivots on a hinge, and as you can see, there is another shackle-type hinge at the end of it. Any idea what this might be? 100% a switch stand. The bent rod is the mast on top of the switch, with the flag still attached. The handle to throw the switch is missing, but would normally lock into either of the two notches on the flat bit in the middle, rotating the turnbuckle at the bottom, which moves the long connecting rod in and out to physically move the points of the switch. 15 years of working on these things finally came in handy. I found this roughly 2 feet long snapped wooden shaft with a metal head that seems to have a hook or latch point at the top. Frankly, I was baffled when I found it. It is mostly made out of wood, but seems to be broken off of a larger wooden shaft. The object was found underwater in a creek bed. The headpiece is made of metal and is heavily corroded. I was able to make out the word Stewart on one side and maybe the letters CU on the other. Any ideas about what this could be? Here's an eBay listing for what looks like a slightly different version of your object in much better shape, where it's clearly marked W.H. Stewart. The lister has it listed as a telephone line hook tool, but eBay listers are notorious for not necessarily knowing what they're selling, and it doesn't really resemble any traditional lineman's hook tools. It appears to be part of a sewer cleaning apparatus. This patent by one William H. Stewart shows what appears to be your object, and that patent is for sectional rods especially adapted for sewer cleaning purposes. This is one end of a rod that would hook onto the corresponding end of the next sectional rod. Armed with this information, we find that there was a W.H. Stewart in Syracuse that made sewer cleaners. And suddenly, the hard-to-make-out text on your object becomes much clearer. The CU is Syracuse, New York. What is this old and rusty thing sitting next to a fence on farmland with gears on it? Possibly used for distributing barbed wire. Any ideas? It's an old metal fence post with winding mechanisms to tension wires. It's a simple but efficient design that works. Most farmers spend time fixing fences, and if they don't need fixing, then they need upkeep to keep the fixing costs down. A ratchet post like this would be very useful, as the farmer would be able to check the posts in the line, ensure their stability, then go to the ratchet post and tighten and loosen as required. What is this mechanical tool found in an old industrial kitchen at Faneuil Hall in Boston, Massachusetts? It has mostly metal components, including 2 large gears and a hand crank set on a wooden base, and is about 24 inches long. Any ideas? Please let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's make life fun.